The crystal walls of the Velen royal palace caught the light of 3 moons. They glowed soft blue and purple, like frozen water under a strange sky. The palace stood tall on a hill above the capital city. Millions of Velen people lived below, but up here, everything was quiet. Everything was still. King Doyon stood at his post near the throne room doors. He did not move. He barely breathed. His black uniform was simple compared to the golden armor of the Velen guards around him. They stood 2 heads taller than him. Their skin was hard like shell, colored deep green and brown. Their eyes were large and dark, and they watched everything at once. They did not look at Doyon. They never did. He had been here for 6 months now. 6 months in this palace, surrounded by beings who saw him as something strange, something small and soft and temporary. The Velen lived for 300 years. To them, humans were like flowers that bloomed and died in a single season. Doyon did not mind. He was not here to make friends. The doors to the throne room opened, and Queen.HFY walked out. She moved like water flowing over stone. Her body was tall and thin, covered in plates of pale silver that caught the moonlight. Her face was almost human in shape, but her eyes were solid black, and small antennae rose from her forehead. She wore a crown of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. She was young for a queen. Only 40 cycles old, which meant she was barely an adult by Velen counting. Her mother had died suddenly 1 year ago, and HFY had taken the throne with no time to prepare. The court whispered about her. They said she was weak. They said she trusted the wrong people. They said she would not last. Doyon had heard all the whispers. He heard everything. The queen stopped when she saw him. This happened sometimes. She would pause and study him like he was a puzzle she could not solve. Human, she said. Her voice was soft and had a strange echo to it, like 2 people speaking at once. You are still here. Yes, Your Majesty, Doyon said. You have been standing for 9 hours? Yes, Your Majesty. She tilted her head. The Velen did this when they were curious. Do you not need rest? I am told humans require much sleep. I will rest when my shift ends, Your Majesty. She watched him for a long moment. The guards around them stayed silent. They thought this conversation was beneath the queen, a waste of her time. You are strange, she said finally, even for a human. She walked away before he could respond. Her guards followed, their heavy feet making the floor shake slightly. Doyon stayed at his post. He watched her go until she turned a corner and disappeared. He was used to being called strange back on Earth. They had called him other things: quiet, cold, difficult. He had served 12 years in the Republic Marines before they offered him this assignment. A diplomatic posting, they said. A gesture of peace between Earth and the Velen Empire. They needed someone who could stand still for hours. Someone who would not cause problems. Someone who did not need to talk. Doyon was perfect for the job, but he had taken it seriously in ways his commanders had not expected. He learned the Velen language until he could speak it without accent. He studied their fighting styles, their history, their customs. He learned which foods were safe for humans and which would kill him. He learned the names of every guard in the palace and watched how they moved. He watched everything. And lately, he'd been watching General Tavik. The general was old and powerful. He had served the queen's mother for 100 years and had won many wars for the empire. But something had changed in him since the new queen took the throne. He spoke to other generals in quiet corners. He visited the barracks late at night. His eyes followed the queen with something that was not loyalty. Doyon had reported his concerns to the human embassy. They told him he was imagining things. They told him not to cause trouble. They told him that Velen politics were not his business, so he stayed quiet. But he did not stop watching. 3 hours later, his shift ended. Another human guard was supposed to replace him. But there were only 2 humans in the entire palace, and the other one was sick. So Doyon stayed another 4 hours until a Velen guard finally came to take his position. He walked to his quarters in the lower levels of the palace. His room was small and plain. A bed, a desk, a window that looked out at the alien sky. He sat on the bed and removed his boots. His feet ached. His back was stiff. But his mind was still working. His communicator buzzed. A message from Park Soman, his contact on the orbital station above the planet. She was an intelligence officer. It's one of the few humans in this system with real authority. The message was short. Something is wrong. Encrypted channels are busy. Military movements near the capital. Be careful. Doyen read the message twice. Then he deleted it. He did not sleep that night. He sat by his window and watched the moons move across the sky. He cleaned his weapon, a simple human pistol that the Velen thought was primitive. He checked his ammunition. He stretched his muscles and ran through combat forms in the small space of his room. When morning came, he put on his uniform and returned to his post. The palace felt different today. The air was tight, like the moment before a storm. The guards moved in small groups and spoke in voices too low to hear. Servants hurried through the halls with their heads down. No one looked at anyone else. Doyen stood at his post and waited. Queen.HFY appeared in the afternoon. She was going to the council chamber for a meeting with her generals. As she passed Doyen, she slowed her steps. "You look tired, human," she said. "I am fine, Your Majesty. You did not sleep." He did not ask how she knew. The Velen could sense things about other beings. Body heat, heart rate, chemical changes in the skin. She probably knew more about his physical state than he did. "I had things to think about," he said. She studied him again with those black eyes. "You are worried about something," was not a question. Doyen hesitated. He was not supposed to speak about his concerns. He was not supposed to involve himself in Velen affairs. But something in him could not stay silent. "Your Majesty should be careful tonight," he said quietly. "The Festival of Ascension will bring many people into the palace. Not all of them are loyal." Her antenna twitched. Surprise, then something else. Respect, maybe. Or just curiosity. "You watch my court very closely for an outsider," she said. "It is my job to watch, Your Majesty." She looked at him for a long time. Then she nodded once and walked away that night. The palace filled with light and music and the sound of 1,000 Velen voices. The Festival of Ascension had begun, and Kong Doyen stood at his post. Watching the shadows move behind the celebration, something was coming. He could feel it in his bones. The throne room was full of light. Floating crystals hung in the air above the crowd, glowing with colors that shifted like fire. Music came from somewhere deep in the walls, a strange and beautiful sound that made the air itself vibrate. Hundreds of Velen nobles filled the great hall, their shellskin shining with oils and paints for the celebration. Queen.HFY sat on her throne at the far end of the room. She wore robes of deep purple, and her crown pulsed brighter than usual. She looked calm. She looked powerful. But Doyen had learned to read the small signs. The way her fingers gripped the arm of her throne, the slight tension in her shoulders. She was afraid. She should be. Doyen stood near the eastern door, away from the main crowd. His position gave him a clear view of the entire room. He watched the nobles dance and talk and drink. He watched the guards stationed around the walls. He watched General Tavik. The old general stood with a group of military officers near the western door. They were not celebrating. They were not drinking. They stood with their backs straight and their hands close to their weapons. Every few minutes, one of them would check the time or glance toward the throne. They were waiting for something. Doyen felt the weight of his pistol against his hip. It was a small comfort. If something happened, one human with one gun would not change much. But it was something. The hours passed. The celebration continued. Doyen's legs grew tired, but he did not sit. He did not look away from the room for even a moment. Midnight came. The music stopped. The floating crystals flickered once, twice, and then went dark. For a moment, the throne room was completely black. Then the screaming began. Red emergency lights flashed on, casting everything in bloody shadows. Doyen heard the sound of weapons being drawn. He heard bodies hitting the floor. He heard voices shouting orders in Velen. His training took over. He moved without thinking, pushing through the panicked crowd toward the throne. Nobles ran past him in all directions, their beautiful robes torn, their painted shells cracked. Some of them fell and did not get up. Armed soldiers poured through every door. They wore the black armor of the Imperial Guard, but their helmets had red marks painted on them. Rebel marks, traitor marks. They fired into the crowd without mercy, cutting down anyone who stood in their way. Doyon reached the base of the throne. Queen.HFY was still sitting there, frozen. Her guards were gone. All 6 of them had simply walked away when the lights went out. They had left her alone. No, not all of them. 2 guards still stood on the dais. They faced the approaching soldiers with their weapons raised. They were going to fight. Then General Tavik walked through the crowd. The soldiers parted for him like water around a stone. He stopped at the base of the steps and looked up at the queen. "Your time is over," he said. His voice was calm and cold. "Your mother made our empire weak. You have made it weaker. The Velen do not need a queen who welcomes aliens into our sacred halls." He looked at Doyon when he said the word aliens. His dark eyes were full of hate. The 2 remaining guards looked at each other. Then they looked at the army of soldiers filling the room. Then, slowly, they lowered their weapons and stepped aside. The queen made a small sound. It was not a word. It was something deeper than that. The sound of someone watching everything they trusted fall apart. She was alone now. Alone on her throne, surrounded by enemies, except she was not alone. Doyon stepped forward. He drew his pistol and held it steady. He positioned himself between the queen and the approaching soldiers. General Tavik stopped walking. His antenna twitched with surprise. "What is this?" he asked. Doyon did not answer. He kept his weapon raised, his eyes moving across the soldiers, counting them. 40, maybe 50. All armed with Velen plasma rifles that could burn through steel. He had 12 bullets in his pistol. Tavik laughed. It was an ugly sound, like metal scraping against stone. "One human?" he said. "You would die for her? She is not even your kind. She is not even your species. Why would you throw your life away for something so far from what you are?" Doyon's hand did not shake. His voice did not waver. "She is my post," he said. The words hung in the air. Simple words. Basic words. But they meant everything. Tavik's laughter faded. He looked at Doyon with something new in his eyes. Not respect, not yet, but confusion, uncertainty. He did not understand this human. He could not predict what it would do. "You cannot win," Tavik said. "You must know this. Even if you kill 10 of my soldiers, the rest will tear you apart, and then we will take the queen anyway. Your death will mean nothing." "Maybe," Doyon said, "but I will take more than 10 with me." Behind him, he heard Queen.HFY rise from her throne. Her voice was shaking, but she spoke anyway. "Human Doyon, you do not have to do this. Save yourself. Go back to your people." He did not turn around. He could not look away from the soldiers. "I am sorry, Your Majesty," he said, "but I cannot do that." Why? It was a simple question, but the answer was complicated. Why did he stay? Duty, honor, something else? He thought about it for a moment. He thought about his years in the Marines. He thought about all the times he had been told to stand down, to stay quiet, to not get involved. He thought about the empty feeling he had carried for so long, the feeling that he had never done anything that mattered, because someone should, he said. General Tavik raised his hand. The soldiers lifted their weapons. "Kill him," Tavik said, "but take the queen alive. She must face justice before the Empire." Doyon moved. He fired twice, and 2 soldiers fell. Then he grabbed the queen's arm and pulled her toward the back of the dais. There was a door there, hidden behind a curtain. A private exit for the royal family. Plasma fire burned the air around them. Doyon felt heat on his face, on his arms. He kicked the door open and pushed the queen through. They ran. The palace halls stretched out before them, long and dark and full of shadows. Doyon could hear soldiers following. Their heavy boots shook the floor. Their shouts echoed off the crystal walls. He had no plan. He had no backup. He had 12 bullets, and now he had 10. But he was alive. The Queen was alive. And as long as that was true, he would keep moving. Keep fighting. Keep doing his job. Somewhere above them, on an orbital station floating in the black sky, Park So-min was watching. She had seen the attack begin. She was already calling for help. Doyen just had to keep the Queen alive, till help arrived. He did not know how long that would take. He did not know if it was even possible, but he was going to try. They ran through the dark halls of the palace. Queen Yura moved fast, her long legs carrying her over the smooth floor. Doyen stayed close behind her, his pistol ready, his eyes watching every shadow. The sounds of pursuit echoed behind them. Boots on stone. Voices calling out positions. The hum of plasma rifles charging. "Where are we going?" Yura asked. Her voice was tight with fear, but she was not panicking. Good panic would get them both killed. Away from them, Doyen said. "I need time to think." They turned a corner and found themselves in a long gallery lined with paintings. Strange alien faces stared down at them from golden frames. Former queens and kings of the Velen Empire, watching their descendant run for her life, Doyen stopped. He looked back the way they had come, then forward into the darkness ahead. "Your Majesty, I need to know the palace, the layout, the hidden places, the weak points." "I know some," she said. "My mother showed me the emergency routes when I was young. But I do not know everything. Tell me what you know." She thought for a moment. Her antenna moved as she searched her memory. "There is a service tunnel behind the kitchens. It leads to the outer wall, but it will be guarded now. What else? The Queen's sanctuary. My private chambers, they have reinforced doors and no windows. If we can reach them, we could hold out for hours." "Where are they?" 3 levels up. On the north side of the palace, 3 levels. That meant stairs. Open areas, choke points where the soldiers could trap them. But it was better than running blind through halls that led nowhere. "We go there," Doyen said. "Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say." They moved again. Doyen led the way now, using the map he had built in his head over 6 months of watching and waiting. He knew these halls. He knew where the corners were sharp and where they curved. He knew which doors locked and which ones did not. He also knew where the soldiers would come from. They reached a stairway. Doyen held up his hand and stopped. He listened. Footsteps above them. At least 3 soldiers, maybe more, coming down. He looked around. A heavy door stood to their left. A storage room for cleaning supplies. He opened it and pushed the Queen inside. "Stay here," he whispered. "Do not move. Do not make a sound." He closed the door and pressed himself against the wall beside the stairs. His heart was beating fast now. He could feel sweat on his skin. But his hands were steady. His mind was clear. The soldiers came around the corner. 3 of them, moving fast, not expecting trouble here. They were looking ahead, looking for the Queen. They did not see Doyen until he was already moving. He shot the first one in the throat. Below the helmet where the armor was weak, the soldier fell without a sound. The second one turned, raising his rifle, but Doyen was faster. He grabbed the barrel and pushed it aside, then fired into the soldier's face at close range. The third soldier fired. Plasma burned past Doyen's head so close he could feel the heat on his ear. He threw himself forward under the next shot and drove his shoulder into the soldier's chest. They fell together, hitting the floor hard. Doyen pressed his pistol against the soldier's neck and pulled the trigger. Silence. He was breathing hard now. His hands were shaking. But he was alive. 7 bullets left. He opened the storage room door. Queen Yura was standing exactly where he had left her. Her black eyes were wide. "You killed them," she said. "Yes. So fast. I did not even see you move." There was no time to explain. He took her arm and led her up the stairs. They passed the bodies of the soldiers without looking at them. 2 more levels, they moved through servant quarters. Empty now. The servants had fled or hidden when the attack began. Do-yeon was grateful. Every person they did not meet was one less problem. Then they heard voices ahead. Do-yeon pulled the queen into a side room. It was a small bedroom, probably for a maid. He pressed his ear to the door and listened. Check every room. The human cannot have gone far. He is wounded.
Ow.
Do-yeon looked down at himself. There was blood on his uniform. He had not noticed until now. During the fight, one of the soldiers had cut him. A blade wound on his left side, just above his hip. It was not deep, but it was bleeding. He ignored it. He had been hurt worse before. The voices moved past. Do-yeon waited until he could not hear them anymore. Then he opened the door and stepped out. Something hit him from the side. A soldier, hidden in a doorway across the hall. He swung a plasma cutter at Do-yeon's head. Do-yeon raised his arm to block, and the blade cut through his sleeve and into his forearm. Pain exploded through his body. He did not scream. He twisted, grabbing the soldier's arm, and drove his knee into the creature's stomach. The armor absorbed most of the blow, but it was enough to make the soldier stumble. Do-yeon raised his pistol and fired. 6 bullets left. His arm was burning. He could see blackened skin where the plasma cutter had touched him. The wound was ugly, but he could still move his fingers. That was what mattered. Queen.HFY came out of the room. She saw his wounds, and her antenna flattened against her head, a sign of distress. "You are hurt," she said. "Does not matter. Keep moving." They climbed the last stairway. The Queen's sanctuary was close now. Just one more hallway, but the hallway was not empty. 10 soldiers stood in front of the sanctuary doors. They saw Do-yeon and the Queen at the same moment. Weapons came up. Orders were shouted. Do-yeon did not hesitate. He ran toward them. He fired as he ran. One soldier fell, then another. Then his pistol clicked empty. He threw the gun at the nearest soldier, hitting him in the face. Then he grabbed a fallen plasma rifle and swung it like a club. He broke one soldier's arm. He crushed another's helmet. He fought like an animal, like a machine, like something that did not know how to stop. The Velen were stronger than him, faster than him. They had armor and weapons and numbers, but they had never seen anything like this. They expected him to run. They expected him to surrender. They expected him to act like prey. Instead, he attacked. Again and again, taking wounds, giving worse, refusing to fall. When it was over, 8 soldiers lay on the floor. Do-yeon was on his knees, covered in blood. Some of it was his. Most of it was not. Queen.HFY stood frozen in the hallway, staring at the scene in front of her. "The door," Do-yeon said. His voice was rough. "Open the door." She moved past him. Her hands were shaking as she pressed her palm against the lock. The sanctuary doors slid open. Do-yeon tried to stand. His legs would not hold him. He fell forward, catching himself on his hands. Strong arms lifted him. The Queen was holding him, pulling him into the sanctuary. She was not strong enough to carry him, but she tried anyway. She dragged him through the doors, and then she sealed them behind her. They were safe. For now, Do-yeon lay on the floor of the sanctuary and stared at the ceiling. His body was screaming with pain. His mind was getting foggy, but they had made it now. He just had to stay alive long enough for help to arrive. The sanctuary was quiet. Thick walls blocked the sounds of chaos outside. Soft blue light came from crystals set into the ceiling, giving the room a peaceful glow that felt wrong after everything that had happened. Queen.HFY knelt beside Do-yeon on the floor. She had torn strips from her royal robes and was pressing them against his wounds. Her hands were covered in his blood. "You are losing too much," she said. "Humans do not heal like Velen. You need medical care." "I am fine," Do-yeon said. The words came out weak. He tried to sit up, but his body refused. "You are not fine. You are dying." He did not argue. She was probably right. The sanctuary was beautiful. Soft furniture, flowing curtains, paintings on the walls showing peaceful scenes from Velen history. It was designed to be a place of rest. a place where queens could escape from the weight of their crowns. Now it might become a tomb. Do-yeon counted his remaining weapons. He had taken a knife from one of the fallen soldiers. He had a plasma rifle with a cracked barrel that might explode if he fired it. That was all. How long can these doors hold? He asked. Ars Yura said, "They are built to survive bombardment. But Tavik has cutting tools. He will get through eventually. Then we have ours." He forced himself to sit up. The pain was bad, but pain was just information. It told him where he was damaged. It did not control him. Queen Yura sat back and looked at him. In the soft light, she almost looked human. Her face had the same expressions. Her eyes, though black and alien, showed the same emotions. Fear, confusion, and something else. "Why did you do it?" she asked. "Do what?" "All of it. You could have walked away. You could have hidden. You could have let them take me and saved yourself. But you fought. You killed. You almost died." "For me," she shook her head, "I do not understand." Do-yeon was quiet for a moment. He thought about how to explain something that he had never put into words before. "On Earth," he said slowly, "there is an old idea. It says that a person's value is not in what they are. It is in what they do. What they choose to do when no one is watching. When no one would blame them for walking away. And you chose to stay?" "Yes. Why?" He met her eyes. "Because you needed someone to stay. And I was there." She did not respond. But something changed in her face. Some wall came down. For the first time, she was looking at him not as a guard or an alien or a curiosity. She was looking at him as a person. The moment was broken by a sound. A deep, grinding noise. Metal being cut. They were coming. Do-yeon stood. His legs shook, but they held. He picked up the knife and faced the door. "Your Majesty, stay behind me. I will not hide while you die for me. You are the queen. Your people need you." "What people?" Her voice was bitter. "My guards abandoned me. My generals betrayed me. My empire is being torn apart by a man who thinks I am weak. What do I have left?" "You have yourself," Do-yeon said. "That is enough." A line of red light appeared in the center of the door. They were cutting through. Do-yeon raised his knife. It felt small in his hand. A tiny thing against the army outside, but it was something. The door fell inward with a crash. Smoke and dust filled the air. Through the haze, dark shapes moved forward. General Tavik walked through the opening. He was wearing full battle armor now. His face was covered by a helmet, but Do-yeon could see his eyes through the visor. They were cold and satisfied. Behind him came his elite guard. 12 soldiers in black armor, the best fighters in the Velen military. They spread out around the room, blocking every exit. Tavik looked at Do-yeon. Then he looked at the knife in his hand. He made a sound that might have been a laugh. Still fighting? Human? With that, Do-yeon did not respond. He kept his eyes on the soldiers, watching for movement. "I will give you one more chance," Tavik said. "Step aside. Go home to your planet. Tell your people what happened here. Live out the rest of your short life in peace." "No." The word was simple. Final. Tavik's eyes narrowed. "Why? What is she to you?" "She is not your queen. She is not your friend. She did not even know your name until tonight. She knows it now." Tavik shook his head. "You humans are strange creatures. You throw your lives away for things that do not matter. For ideas. For feelings. For strangers," he gestured to his soldiers. "Take him." 3 soldiers moved forward. Do-yeon met them. The fight was short and brutal. He cut one soldier across the arm, making him drop his weapon. He dodged a blow from another and drove his knife into a gap in the armor. But the 3rd soldier caught him from behind. Arms wrapped around his chest, squeezing the air from his lungs. He was thrown to the ground. Boots kicked into his sides, his back, his wounded arm. Pain crashed through him in waves, but he did not scream. He did not beg. He got up. The soldiers stepped back. They had beaten him. They had broken him. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His left eye was swelling shut. His breath came in ragged gasps, but he got up. Tavik stared at him. For the first time, something like uncertainty flickered across his face. "Stay down, human." Doyan raised his fists. He had lost the knife somewhere. He had nothing left but his body. They beat him down again. And again he rose. The soldiers looked at Tavik. They were confused, afraid. This was not how enemies acted. This was not how prey behaved. The human was broken. He was finished. Why would he not stay down? "What are you?" Tavik demanded. Doyan spat blood onto the floor. His voice was barely a whisper now. "I am human." He stepped forward again. One foot, then another. Moving toward Tavik, even though every part of his body screamed for him to stop. This was what humans were made of. Not strength. Not speed. Not armor, or weapons, or technology. Humans were made of will. The stubborn, impossible, magnificent refusal to give up, even when defeat was certain. Even when death was coming. Even when nothing made sense anymore. Tavik stepped back. He actually stepped back from this broken, bleeding creature that would not stop. And in that moment, Queen.HFY understood. She had spent her whole life hearing that. Humans were weak, short-lived, fragile. But now she saw the truth. Humans were not weak. They were something else entirely. Something that did not fit into any category the Velen had made. They were terrifying. The doors behind Tavik exploded inward. Not from cutting this time. From explosives. Soldiers in gray armor poured into the room, their weapons firing. Loyalist forces. Salman had done it. She had found them. She had brought help. Tavik's elite guards fell one by one. The general himself was surrounded, disarmed, forced to his knees. Dojan watched it happen from the floor. He could not stand anymore. His body had finally given out. But he was smiling. They had made it light, soft and warm and golden. It came through a window somewhere above him, falling across his face like gentle hands. Doyan opened his eyes. He was lying in a bed, a real bed with soft sheets and thick pillows. The ceiling above him was high and decorated with patterns that seemed to move and shift as he watched. Medical machines hummed quietly beside him, their screens showing numbers he did not understand. He tried to move. Pain answered him, but it was distant now, dull. Whatever they had given him was strong. "You are awake." The voice came from his left. He turned his head slowly and saw Queen.HFY sitting in a chair beside his bed. She was not wearing her crown. Her robes were simple, plain gray cloth, instead of royal purple. She looked tired. She looked young. She looked almost normal. "How long?" Doyan asked. His voice was rough. 16 days. 16 days. He had been unconscious for 16 days. The coup? Finished. General Tavik is in prison. His followers have been arrested. The Empire is safe. She paused. Because of you. Doyan closed his eyes. The memories were coming back now. The throne room. The chase through the palace. The fighting. The beating. Getting up again and again until his body simply could not move anymore. "I did not do much," he said. "You did everything." He opened his eyes again. HFY was looking at him with an expression he had never seen before. It took him a moment to understand what it was. Gratitude. Real, deep, honest gratitude. "You saved my life," she said. "When everyone else abandoned me. When my own guards walked away. When my own people tried to kill me. You stayed." Her voice shook slightly. "I have been a queen my whole life. I have been surrounded by servants and soldiers and advisors. But I have never had anyone stay for me. Not like that." "It was my job," Doyan said. "No," she shook her head. "Do not say that. Do not make it small. What you did was more than duty. More than orders?" It was. She struggled to find the word. It was human. The word hung in the air between them. Human. Once it had been an insult in this palace. A word for something weak and strange and beneath notice. Now it meant something different. Your medical team saved my life, Doyen said, changing the subject. I should thank them. They say you should have died. Your wounds were severe. Blood loss. Organ damage, burns. Yura leaned forward. But you did not die. They do not understand how. They say human bodies should not be able to survive what you survived. Humans are stubborn. Yes, I have learned this. She stood up and walked to the window. The view outside showed the capital city spread below, glittering under the light of the 3 moons. The festival of Ascension was over. The palace was quiet, but life continued. My people are talking about you, she said. Word has spread across the empire. The human who would not run. The alien guard who defended his queen when her own soldiers betrayed her. Songs are being written. Stories are being told. She turned back to face him. You are becoming a legend. Doyon did not know what to say to that. He was just a man. Just a Marine who had done his job. He had not asked for songs or stories or legends. I do not want to be a legend, he said. That is not your choice anymore. There was silence for a moment. Doyon looked at the ceiling again, at the shifting patterns that seemed to tell stories of their own. What happens now? He asked. Now you heal. The doctors say you will need several more weeks before you can walk properly again. Your arm will take longer. They had to rebuild some of the nerves. She returned to her chair and sat down. After that, I have a request for you. You do not have to accept it. What request? Stay. He turned his head to look at her. Your assignment here was meant to be temporary, she continued. A symbol of friendship between our peoples. It was never supposed to be real, but what you did made it real. You showed my people that humans can be trusted, that humans have value beyond what we imagined. She met his eyes. I am asking you to stay, not as a symbol, not as a diplomat, as my guardian, my true guardian. Doyon was quiet. He thought about Earth, about his small apartment in a city he barely remembered, about the life he had left behind, the empty years of service and silence and loneliness. He thought about the feeling he had carried for so long, the feeling that nothing he did mattered. He did not feel that anymore. The human embassy might not approve, he said. I have already spoken with them. They have agreed if you choose to accept Park Soman. She recommended you for the position herself. Doyen almost smiled. Salman was always thinking ahead. I am not a politician, he said. I do not know how to play court games. I do not know how to smile and bow and say the right things. I do not need a politician. I need someone who will tell me the truth. Someone who will protect me not because they have to, but because they choose to. Yura leaned closer. I need someone I can trust. Trust. It was a small word for such a big thing. I will stay, Doyon said. Yura smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen from her. It changed her whole face, made her look young and hopeful and alive. Thank you, she said. 3 weeks later, Doyen stood in the throne room again. He was wearing new clothes now, a uniform designed just for him. It was dark blue with silver trim, the colors of the Queen's personal guard. But the cut was human. The fit was human. It marked him as something new, something that had never existed before. The room was full of nobles and generals and representatives from a dozen different worlds. They had come to witness something historic. Queen Yura rose from her throne. She descended the steps until she stood in front of Doyun. In her hands, she held a symbol of office, a small crystal that pulsed with inner light. Kong Doyan of Earth, she said, her voice carrying across the silent room. You came to us as a stranger. You became our defender. When darkness fell, you stood against it. When others fled, you remained. You have shown us what it means to be human. She placed the crystal in his hands. It was warm against his skin. From this day forward, you are first guardian of the Velen throne. You will stand at my side. You will protect our people. You will show the galaxy that the bond between humans and Velen is more than words. Doyen bowed his head. I accept, Your Majesty. The room erupted in applause. Nobles who had once ignored him now looked at him with respect. Generals who had dismissed him now nodded in acknowledgement. Everything had changed. Later that night, Doyen stood on a balcony overlooking the city. The three moons were rising, filling the sky with soft light. Below him, millions of Velen went about their lives, never knowing how close they had come to disaster. He thought about everything that had happened. The long months of waiting, the night of betrayal, the fight through the palace, the moment when he had refused to stay down, even though every part of him was broken. He had come to this world as an outsider, a curiosity, a symbol of something no one really believed in. Now he was something else. Across the galaxy, other species were asking questions. They were looking at humans differently. They were wondering what else these strange, stubborn, impossible creatures could do. The answer was simple. Anything. Humans could do anything. As long as they had something to fight for, and Kang Do-yan had found his something, he turned and walked back into the palace, ready to begin his new life among the stars.